The royal family seems to stay in the headlines, and it's unfortunate now why they're in the headlines with Kate and this cancer diagnosis, and the same with the king, but still they continue to be worldwide news.
Right now it's a moment where, we understand that they have asked for a bit of peace and quiet around what they're experiencing, and it feels like that's the least that we can do. It's a complicated relationship that the royal family has with the press, because they court it as much as they probably dread it. But I think in this instance, with this latest double whammy of news, the least that people can do, I think, is to give them a bit of a break and to let the headlines settle down, and for them to have, to process this as the human beings that they actually are.
What hurts the most is that we had come so far.
Should there be more of The Crown, the series?
Oh no, I think it probably ended at the right spot. It was getting too close to present day. It was much easier when it was further in the past, I think, and people didn't have necessarily a direct relationship with the people on screen.
Make no mistake, if we don't get the tone right, the story won't be him. It'll be us.
Your Royal Highness.
Right off the bat, Rufus, you talked about watching this interview over and over again, and the more you watch this interview, the more you're in disbelief of what you're watching. What was it like as you morphed into Prince Andrew, but also you figured out a way to kind of mimic what was going on in his mind, which I still don't know to this day?
And I had a pretty similar reaction, I think, to most people. And like a human, I made my judgments, etc. When I was studying it, it's quite different because it was about trying to get past the judgment and try to work out the why. Why does he say the things he says, why does he say them the way he says them, when he pauses, when he, what is he trying to achieve, what does he think his desired effect is, how, and all of those things, and obsessing, like Gillian did in her way, on every tiny little moment that other people might not see as significant, and nailing down your own reasons for why they did it.
Hello, everyone.
It's very fascinating because people, all of us have our own relationship with our guilt or our innocence in various matters, and this is someone who feels that he is a victim of circumstances just as much as he might feel culpable, and you can see that in the interview, and it's fascinating, the story he's telling himself just as much as the story he's trying to tell us.
I agree. It's fascinating to watch your eyes, how your eyes show the confusion.
If I do an interview, the question is, why you?
With respect, you know how people see you.
Spell it out.
Brandy, Andy.
With respect.
Gillian, I want to ask you, do you feel like you hover around the royal family, like you're in that universe telling stories about the royal family constantly?
This is only the second one that I've done, and very much the first story that I was involved in telling was as much it was me, a politician. It was the relationship between Prime Minister and the Crown, and so it was less about being inside the royal family. And this very much feels like it's, even though the end result happens to be a member of the royal family, and certainly the fact of Andrew being part of the royal family has everything to do with how he responded. Ultimately, this is about these women and, led by Sam McAllister, who all work within the BBC and Newsnight, and how they went about capturing this interview. So it feels like, yes, it's there, but it doesn't feel like it's the story or what, it could be. It could have been a head of state or a world leader of some kind that we were trying to hold to account.
Rufus, I want to ask you about the transformation. When did you know that you could pull it off and have the look?
Well, I don't know about the look, but when I read it, my instinct was I could do it. And then I said yes, and then my instinct disappeared entirely. I mean, or rather, my courage failed me for a little while. But I think there's nothing wrong with that. You've got to dip into that. And when I started working from a place of, oh my God, I am nowhere near this. And I'm not, sometimes I work that way, and sometimes it feels like it's there from the start. And I had to invent a process, because I'm not someone who's I've played a few people who lived, but not anyone who people were very familiar with. So I had to get past the fear, and because it's a royal, because it's someone who's alive, similar to what Gillian experienced, there is all these things you have to put out of your head. But the transformation is, I even kind of changed the way that I looked when I was working on my own, just so I could believe myself, I could believe my own silhouette. So when I came to have the makeup done, which was extraordinary.
Tomorrow night, in an unprecedented interview, we will hear from the Duke himself.
I thought that all went very well.
Sam McAllister really is a force of nature. What was it like being around her and talking to everyone involved, Gillian?
Sam wasn't necessarily, in the public eye as much as we were able to watch endless amounts of video and study. I think Sam had sent Billy video of her walking and her sitting down and her doing various things, I think, which was particularly helpful. So I understand that they spent quite some time together. I sat down with her once, and she was incredibly generous with her time and good to talk to. It was interesting for me to talk to other people who knew Emily, my character, who didn't necessarily have that perspective, to get another side of things, so that it wasn't. I wanted to make sure that I was getting a full picture of who Emily was, and so that was very meaningful to me.
She was very encouraging. It was really good to have her around and to have her at the read-through, and I spent a little bit of time with her, and she's a lot of fun, and she's very strong. Very similarly, it's very useful to be able to get opinions about who you're playing that don't agree, because somewhere in there is the truth. And we would have, to listen to Sam talking about meeting Andrew, and how she said, he made that joke, inappropriate joke, and blah, 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 but the overall impression was, you kind of liked him, And I'd also heard the opposite from people, but to hear a lot of them who really would defend him, and it's very useful to hear a lot of complex, differing ideas, because it frees you up to use your imagination. You're not trying to follow one person's description.